All right, so when Mr. Jones came out at the time, it was super refreshing because don't forget, it came out in the mid 90s. So grunge was just peaking or, has peaked a year or two earlier. And it was heavy guitar music that was playing on the mainstream radio. And Mr. Jones, their first single of the first Counting Crows album, when that hit the radio waves, woof, I gotta say, it was very refreshing because it wasn't a heavy distorted guitar sound. It was a clean guitar. I would say it was a clean electric guitar sound, which was unusual. It wasn't really an acoustic sound. It wasn't really a classical nylon string sound. It was an acoustic. Sorry. It was a clean electric sound, which was, I gotta say, not the norm on the radio at the time. And I just loved it, from Adam's delivery, the sound of his voice was unique. The lyrics was awesome, and the melodies within the song, just the complete package was just something very unique. And if you're listening to mainstream music at the time, was awesome. That was sort of my era, the rock era, from the early 90s to the mid or late 90s. Mainstream was Pearl Jam, Nirvana, Alice in Chains, Soundgarden, all the Seattle movement, and then all the bands that tried to replicate them, like Silverchair, Rage Against the Machine. Red Hot Chili Peppers was big then. And even like the non-alternative, like AC/DC, Metallica, Aerosmith, they released their biggest albums in the 90s. And so this song and the album as a whole really stood out from all that stuff because of what I just mentioned, the sound and the fact that it was not distorted and heavy. And I got to say, Adam Duritz's voice and the way he sings, his delivery is very unique as well. He kind of almost like raps or talk sings, He doesn't have these super long notes, a la Bruce Dickinson, like operatic voice like that. It's not his thing. So that too was kind of unique as well. Okay, I'm excited. Hopefully you can join me on this journey to read this article about Mr. Jones and the stories behind it. Here we go. Page 20 of the latest classic rock magazine says the stories behind the songs Counting Crows, Mr. Jones, a song that the band still sozzled singer Adam Duritz wrote immediately after and about A Wild Night Out. It became a radio staple, a huge hit, and their signature song. In the years before Counting Crows became one of the biggest success stories of the mid-90s, frontman and chief songwriter Adam Duritz was a man of many bands. The Baltimore-born and California-raised singer was into all sorts of music, so he played all sorts of music. There was the Mod L Society, who specialized in jangly power pop, a psychedelic rock crew called the Himalayans, and the atmospheric new wave of sordid humor, for whom he provided backing vocals. There were even a few different versions of Counting Crows before the one that hit the jackpot via their 1993 debut album, August and Everything After. An album that sounds like Automatic for the People era REM in Confession. Its stirring mix of emotive ballads, contemplative alt-rock, and hook after melody hook sold more than 7 million copies. Wow. As he bounced from project to project, Duritz was writing and quietly stockpiling the collection of songs that would go on to be radio-conquering hits over the course of a few years in the early 90s. Round Here, Rain King, Omaha, and Mr. Jones, the song that would become Counting Crows' debut single. Mr. Jones and Omaha were both songs I brought to other bands I was in, and we ended up not doing them because they didn't feel great in those bands, he recalls. Round Here was a Himalayan song originally. Mr. Jones was born of a wild night on the tiles in San Francisco's Mission District with his friend and Himalayans bandmate, the titular Marty Jones. The reason they were out, he explains, is that Jones's father David, who lived in Spain, was over in the U.S. performing. He'd become one of the iconic flamenco guitar players in Madrid and was playing with his old flamenco troupe, who he'd played with many years before. There were singers, dancers, musicians, a whole bunch of people who were all part of the scene, and they played this show, and it was fucking outrageous. After the show, Duritz and Marty moved through the gears, swaggering from bar to bar, reveling in the excitement. It was a crazy night. There's flamenco dancers who are insanely hot. Marty was talking to one of them whose name was Maria, a really sexy woman who knew his parents when he was born, Duritz says, explaining the black-haired flamenco dancer mentioned in the song. Oh, cool. The central theme of the song, that everything would be fixed for Duritz and his pal, and they could unlock their inner super selves, if only they could make it in music, was cemented when Duritz spotted Chris Isaac's drummer Kenny Dale Johnson cozied up in one of the bar's booths with 3 women. Not a bad night, I guess. I remember looking at him and thinking, man, if we were rock stars, we'd be able to talk to women, he says, laughing. The truth is, it's still hard. Instead, Duritz turned to what came a little more naturally, getting through the door in the early hours and documenting the night in song. I remember going home and needing to go work on it right away, he says of the song's creation. I've never been one of those people who wrote over chunks of time. I used to just sit down and do it, and I'd stick with it until it was done. Well, that part came quickly. Recording Mr. Jones was another matter, a real struggle, says Duritz. Chief among the issues was that drummer Steve Bowen hated it. He got in his head that it was a country song, says Duritz. He was really up in arms about it, like, I didn't fucking sign up to play country music. I might as well wear a cowboy hat and stick a piece of straw in my mouth. He was really anti the song. It affected the way he played it. He's a great drummer, but he just had this blind spot where Mr. Jones was. Producer T-Bone Burnett brought in someone else to play drums, but there was also the problem that Duritz was struggling to nail a good vocal take. I must have done it 50 or 60 times, he remembers. It ended up being one of the last tracks to be completed. Wow, 50 to 60 times for that vocal track. I gotta say, whatever it took, they got themselves a banger killer track for sure. I don't think I've ever done anything in my life in one sitting 50 or 60 times, so that shows the commitment for sure. After finally nailing a vocal take, Duritz had no idea the song would be a hit. Rain King and Round Here had been penciled in for that status. Mr. Jones became the band's introductory single only because they refused to edit the label's first choice, while Duritz credits a performance of Here in early 1994 as key to Counting Crows' breakthrough. A few months later, he realized it was Mr. Jones that had become their calling card. After SNL, which stands for Saturday Night Live, it got pretty big on the radio, he says. By that summer, when we were playing, there were a lot of people who wanted to hear Mr. Jones. It seemed like the audience was there for Mr. Jones. But I noticed that more after the fact. I didn't notice it blowing up the record. I just noticed that once the record blew up, Mr. Jones was really big. That was a song that radio would play over and over again because it was shorter than Round Here. As August and Everything After became one of those albums that kept selling and selling, Mr. Jones became one of those songs you heard everywhere, as Duritz can attest. I remember being in a strip club in New Orleans and Mr. Jones comes on, and I was like, no, this is not the vibe, not this song. I don't mind getting a dance every now and then, but not to my song. That is not okay. I personally would dig that experience very much. The success that Duritz had yearned for in that very track had finally arrived. His music was everywhere, whether he liked it or not. There you go. That's the article, and there's a little note here. Counting Crows tour the UK from October 23 to November 1st. All right, so all of you in UK, you lucky bastards, you might get to see them. Very cool. I've never seen them live. One thing, that I always respected about the Counting Crows is, okay, they came out with that first album, which was mainly clean guitar sounding, not that heavy rock, as I mentioned. But then their second album, they absolutely kicked ass. It absolutely rocked. It was all electric, a bunch of solos, and who knew that they would turn around and deliver an album like that? I know probably upsetted a lot of people. A lot of the fans who got into that sound probably were alienated on the second album, but that's what I love about the Counting Crows. They didn't give a shit. They just did whatever they felt like it, and I really respected them, especially after the second album. And think about it, once you release an album with quiet, kind of almost acoustic type sound, and then a super rockin' album, well then the sky's the limit. You could pretty much release anything you want after that, and that's what they've done. So really, really cool. Counting Crows, awesome. I have so many good memories just listening to that album. I dug it up because it was just so unique than what else was out there. And at the time, I was learning how to play guitar as well. So, a lot of their songs are just like, a couple of chords, And it was just really fun to play along with as I was learning how to play guitar back then. So a lot of cool memories those at Counting Crows. So hope you enjoy that one. Short and sweet. Let me know, what do you think about Counting Crows? Did you dig him? Did you not dig him? Are you still a fan? I must admit, I fell off the bandwagon for a while, and maybe now would be a good time to get back into it and see what they've been doing recently. All right, I appreciate you checking me out. Rock on, One Louder. Oh wait, one last thing. If you want to support the show and you dig this kind of content, go check out itsOnelouder.com. That's ITS, the number one louder.com. I've got some rock and roll gear on there that you may dig. And if you do dig it, I really appreciate you getting yourself a mug, a t-shirt, a hoodie, or whatever you want to support the show. It'd mean a lot to me. Thank you.
Thanks for listening, and rock on One Louder.